Welcome to my podcast, where we are going to talk about a lifestyle with dogs and throw in a few life lessons along the way. Whether you're a hound hunter, bird dog enthusiast, running setters, pointers, retrievers, or a flat-out running dog junkie, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Heath Hyatt, a certified law enforcement canine trainer with over 3 decades of personal and professional training and handling experience. It's time for me to pay it forward. So grab your leads, lace up those boots, and come and join me on this lifelong process of teaching, training, and learning. Are you looking to unlock your dog's full potential and give them the best nutrition possible for peak performance? Then look no further. Inukshuk has what you're looking for. Inukshuk's nutrient-dense formulas are crafted to keep your dog's energy high and performance top-notch. Packed with premium proteins and essential fats, Inukshuk delivers the balanced nutrition your dog needs to thrive. From hunting dogs to police canines, Inukshuk is trusted by professionals. Give your dog the power of peak performance with Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new episode of What's Up Wednesday. It's the podcast for every hunter who's ever followed a good nose hound through the woods. I'm Heath Hyatt, your host, and each week we're going to dive into tips, tricks, and tactics to turn your hound into a hunting machine. Whether you're just starting out or you've logged miles with your pack, there's always something in here for you. So let's get into it. Just got home, got the dogs unloaded, got them fed, a little bit of doctoring up, took a shower, grabbed me a big glass of cold water, and I thought, I'm going to go ahead and knock this out. It was a good morning. Had a pretty good walk. I think I logged in, pushing 7 miles. Let me just look. Let me just check it out so I'm telling you accurately. But yeah, the dogs are treated. Another day when I was talking, I said that the dogs retrieved, 1.62 miles. Well, that's not the walk. We ended up logging, I think it was 5.6 miles. And this morning I'm looking at my stuff here. 6.6 miles is what I got in today. Like I said, they were 2.5 miles from the truck, which I had to walk down a hollow, cut across, hit an old mountain logging road, walk out the logging road for a long ways, then drop down into the creek to them, and that was a nasty mess. So pulling back up out of there with 6 dogs was not fun. I'll tell you that. That 300 yards was torture. And yeah, got back to the path and bootlegged it all the way back to the truck, and I just took my time coming out. I actually rode around the mountain and rode into some areas that I hadn't been because I had a little time today. So it was a good day. And before we get started on this great episode that we're getting ready to embark upon, I just want to follow up on last week's pack versus packing. Because after I went back and listened to it, I'm like, how did you leave some of this out? And I told you I felt like, we could have went on for a long time about it. We didn't talk about guys packing dogs crossing, bear crossing the road or coming close to the road and stuff like that. Kind of left that out, but that's part of packing too. But I did not really I hate to pack. So yes, I do it sometimes. And if my dogs, just like I told you during that podcast, I had 2 dogs walking a bear and I turned my 2 old dogs loose with 2 younger dogs. So I put 4 dogs to the 2. I don't do that a whole lot. I just don't do it. And if your dogs happen to cross the road, or the guys I'm hunting with, if their dogs cross the road with a bear and, they need help, 99% of the time, I'm going to turn whatever young dogs I have loose. When I say young dogs, I mean the youngest things I have with me. Very seldom will I turn my old dogs loose. So I just wanted to put that out there. I don't like to pack. I believe dogs should be doing it from start to finish, and that's my philosophy, even though sometimes the hunt kind of dictates how you handle that or what you do. So I do hold my younger dogs on a lead when I'm free casting and I'm walking, during the winter months. I don't want, and that's kind of leading to this podcast. So let's just get it going. If you've hunted hounds long enough, you know the sound. It's the one that gets your heart pumping, right? Dogs open up, they burst down through the woods. You're thinking, okay, man, we got it. We're lined out. But then something doesn't sound right. The way they're running, the way the race is rolling, watching your GPS, which I'm guilty of. Today I was listening I had my windows down, sitting in my truck, and I was listening and watching at the same time. I could hear. But you're watching your GPS, and man, it just don't seem right. The dogs split up, one or two fall out or start backtracking, and then it kind of hits you like a bug on a windshield. This is not right. This is not what we're supposed to be running. We're having a good old trash race. Now, that's a word that every houndsman knows too well. Deer, fox, yote is my nemesis. The game that isn't the target. But, man, if it doesn't get them dogs fired up. And the truth is, every hound's got to learn the difference. Some learn quick. Some take a little more time than others. And a couple of them, just like you've heard me say before, my old ring dog, they're going to flat out test your patience. So today we're going to dig into this. We're going to talk about why hounds run trash, how to catch it, how to correct it, and I'm going to share a couple stories from my experience in the woods, the good, the bad, and the flat out frustrating. It's one of the oldest headaches of hound hunting, running trash. Every houndsman's been there. I don't care who you are. At some point, your dogs are going to trash. So let's just break it down. Let's start with why. What's the why? Why do dogs run trash? And I don't know if you guys are like I am. Like when I'm on a trip or just like today, I don't know, I hike 3 miles in, I guess. And I'm hiking in, so I'm not thinking nothing but get to the dogs. But on the way back, I'm not in as big a hurry. I got my dogs with me. We pull up out of that little valley and back into that logging road. And I'm walking and I'm thinking, like I'm kind of doing a play-by-play. Like what happened? Who struck first? Who did what? I'm watching the Garmin. I'm watching the Alpha. The Alpha XL is one of the best things that I've got. I'm telling you, I love it. And I'm tickled with the 300. I mean, I'm not charging my stuff, but about every 3 days, my collars and my 300. But now let me just make sure we're setting the table here. Like I'm turning that thing on about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm usually done by 12. I was out of the woods at 10:15 this morning. And I did ride around. I put 2 young dogs up on the truck, take an opportunity, right? And I was rigging them, so everybody else's collar was off except theirs 2. So, 12 o'clock, I'm doing 3 days, so I love it. But I'm just going to kind of run through this. Just last week, I'm driving around the mountain. It's early, just broke daylight. It's 41 degrees. Humidity is 94%. Cool, beautiful morning. The sun's coming up. And I'm just kind of cruising. And I'm rigging, but I've already got in my mind, if I don't hit a track on the road, here's what my next plan is. Here's where I'm going. So I'm making a loop. I come down off the north, make a loop underneath the north, and I go back up on the other side of the north. And I'd been hitting a couple of bear in this one area. So I'm like, I'm going to go over and check it real quick. And if I don't hit anything there, I'm going to go to plan B, which is lacing my boots up, busting the brush, because it's that time of year, plus the acorns are falling. and the bear's not crossing the road or coming to the road as much. So I start down off the south. I get through a couple little turns, and I hit a water holler, and the truck blows up. I mean, blows up. And I'm like, you know the feeling. You're like, all right, here we go. So I get up, and I turned the older dog. I didn't have my old dogs with me, but I turned the older dog loose. And they were making a circle around the truck like they couldn't find it. So I got one of I got Lady down, my 2-year-old, and put her down. Well, she went above the road. In fact, the 2 other dogs ended up going down below the road. They got about 180 yards before they ever opened. And then they start opening, and everything kind of starts filing in there. And they finally get lined out. And I put the others in. I had 6 dogs total. And man, off we go, mountain they go, who read a rail, man. Woo, sounding good. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening. I'm watching the Garmin. Everybody's packed up tight. Like we like to see that, right? Like to see that tight pack. And for 15 minutes or so, it looked and sounded like bear race. Here we go. And then something happened. Made a big loop in there. So they come back across the track. They made a loop and come back across the track. One of the dogs got hung up. And after they crossed the track, they made another, it was almost like a figure 8. Made another loop in there and come back across the track again. And the dog that got hung up that time. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. But we've had some weird races. And over the next 10 to 15 minutes, dogs split up. And then they come back together. I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's running them off, right? And several more rounds into it, I'm starting to scratch my head. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, So I had to drive around. I didn't want them going in. I didn't want them crossing the road. So I drove around to cut them off. But when I did, it turned and made a loop back up to where I struck. So I don't know. Another 30, 40 minutes into it. We're a good hour plus into it now. And the dogs had split. One's fell out. 2's got behind in the mess, the collage that this varmint, whatever it was making. And they take off back towards the road again. So I just eased around through there and I just cut my truck off. But I made a mistake. I was sitting with my face in the sun and I couldn't see. So I'm like, I got to move. So as I go around this little curve, dogs are popping out in the road. So I didn't get to see it. And as soon as they pop out in the curve, I'm like, come here. And they stop immediately and they come to me, put them in the truck, and I ended up catching everything off. So I don't think it was a bear. It didn't run like a bear. It did at the beginning. And then after it made those loops and come in there and back around and back through there and looping, it crossed its track numerous times. And I didn't get to see what it was. So I'm not frustrated about them running trash. I don't like it. I'm more frustrated that I don't know what it was. And that was just last week. That was dogs that have been consistently catching bear that made a faux pas. So why do the dogs run trash? When you're breeding dogs and you're breeding correctly, their DNA is ingrained in them. Their prey drive is going to be strong, very strong. And when you're running young dogs, they don't know the difference. So at the heart of it, a hound's job is to chase game. They're bred for the nose, for the speed, grit, but they don't come knowing what they're supposed to run. When that pup first hits the woods, it's raw instinct. It's wide open. Any track, game on. I'm bred to run, and I am going going to do it, right? So deer, fox, coyote, rabbit, squirrel, whatever it is, it's fair game to them. So instinct and drive is the number one. That's our number one thing we need to just discuss. That's the number one why. What about excitement or pack influence? How does that play effect into it? I told you in the last podcast I did when I teach my tactical tracking class, one dog opens, the rest of them's going to pile in there. The wrong dog can lead to a whole disastrous race, and that's pack influence. Hounds are social. Like they're social. They're pack animals, so they're going to go with each other. And like I said, one opens, the rest pile in. Oh, okay. Well, I'm joining the party. Let's roll. And then you got two or three doing it. A weak-minded dog, not an independent, strong-minded, a weak-minded dog, followers. They're going to run with anybody. And I've had a few of those dogs that were Me Too dogs. Your dog run a cow, they'd run a cow. Your dog catch a possum, they catch a possum. Your dog tree a coon, they tree a coon. I've had a couple of those dogs throughout my career. And I'll tell you another story. Just this happened last weekend. I'll tell you about I just told you about the 1.6 mile I had to walk in and had a couple dogs treed. Well, I bought a dog, and I do not know her well enough yet. But she fell out of that race. And when she fell out of that race, she took one of my young dogs with her. And I'm pretty sure, I never heard her, but watching the Garmin, she come through some country at a pretty fast clip and got hung up in some rocks way on out the mountain. And I think that stopped her. And he was right with her, and they ended up going back over the mountain and coming back out towards the same area that I turned loose in. So, you talk about, pack influence. That's a big thing. I've said it 100 times. One bad apple can ruin the bushel. One dog doing the wrong thing can turn the whole pack. So handling is a huge part of it. What about immaturity and inexperience? Kind of just hit on that. Young hounds don't know the difference between right and wrong yet. I had two dogs with me today. I took Goofy with me. He's 7 months old, a little over 7 months old, and I just let him walk with me. He walked into the tree, sniffed around. I didn't even put a lead on him at the tree. Like, he sniffed around, was kind of watching what the other dogs were doing, and he walked back out with me, and I got one of the sea litter pups back. Thank you to one of my good friends. And, she's learning. She's inexperienced. But they don't know the difference yet. She hit 2 tracks on me the other morning while I was walking, and I literally hollered for my old dogs to come back because I didn't want them going down there and messing with it. And I knew it wasn't right because she don't know what's right yet. So they don't know. They haven't learned what makes you happy. And running trash is often just a part of the learning curve. Like, do I want my young dogs running deer? Absolutely not. But if they do it, I want them to do it right. And even though it's a trash race, it's a learning process. It's a learning curve. They get to learn how to run that odor or that scent. And it gives them things to figure out. But it's just like putting a kid, our kids, you're giving them, they're testing the boundaries. What can I do? What can I not do? So lack of experience is a big thing. Scent conditions and confusion. Let's talk about that. Deer and other non-target game, they leave scent everywhere, right? Some days a deer track is going to be a hotter track than what you're after. And I'm going to go back and throw a little blurb in here from the tactical tracking class that I teach, because I want people to have a mental picture a visual of what is going on. We domesticated the dogs, and a wolf pack and a coyote pack, they have to eat to survive. So we're just going to take the wolf pack. And this is one of the analogies that I give my guys in the tracking class, and I give it to them for a reason. But if a pack of wolves come into a meadow, and there's been an elk there at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 7 o'clock, and they come through there at 7:30, they're not going to take the elk at it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And why? Because their chance of survival and catching this is going to be with the freshest track. It's not the oldest track. And their life depends on it, right? Our dogs are a little different. So genetically, we are asking our dogs to do some things that goes against their DNA. So just keep that in mind. But the hot tracks are hard to turn down. You know, even if a halfway broke dog gets tempted, sometimes, you know, they're going to take out there on it. And that's kind of where I'm at with my younger dogs. My 2-year-olds are halfway. My 4-year-olds, which is the dogs that I'm talking about, we had to race the other day. They were part of that. They're 85% right. So there's a 15% window in there that I've got to figure out. So it's hard on them. And when you're in an environment that contains a lot of different odors, and if you're outside in the woods, I mean, and if you're a hunter, you know this. We go to where the food's at. And where the food's at is where all the game's at. So you may be walking into an acorn patch with deer everywhere. Okay? And that's gonna come in play in just in a minute when we go to correcting this problem. And just bad habits. You know, not checked early. You know, if a dog runs trash and gets away with it 1 or 2 times, man, that can stick with them. You know, they learn fast what they can get away with. You know, if a dog isn't corrected right away, he may start thinking, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's okay to do this. Now, just because the dog runs trash don't mean it's ruined. You know, the real test is how you handle it. How do you take it from here? Like, what do you do? And breaking off a dog off trash isn't about getting mad. I've been there and done that, and it don't work. It's not good for me, and it's not good for the dogs. And I'm way past that period in my life. It's about timing and patience and a fair correction. And everybody knows that if you wait too long, the lesson don't stick. We know that if you don't correct a dog within that 1.5 to 1.7 seconds, dog doesn't have a clue what he's getting corrected for. That timing is crucial. So if you correct too soon on the wrong thing, you may risk sitting the young dog back, taking that really good prospect that you have and not doing well with it. So let's talk about correcting it, because some of this stuff's going to come into play we just talked about. Catching them in the act. If y'all can see me, I'm screaming it from the rooftop. You know, timing is everything. You know, you cannot correct what you don't know for sure. And that should be in highlighted letters, big bold letters with parentheses and quotation marks with an exclamation mark. If you don't know, don't do it. Okay? Catch them off. Just catch them off. And there's different ways to stop it before it starts. You know, it's not unfixable. Always get them on the right game first and make sure that they know what you want them to do before starting the correction process. So let me go back and tell you about my bee litter. And you go back and listen to my podcast that me and Jerry Barker was on when I went to Kentucky. So bee litter was in between seasons, and I wanted to get them out. I wanted to get them in the woods, get them busy. So what I did with them, I train dogs for a living. I got dogs in my hands all the time, and I made a crucial mistake here. So I wanted to get them out, and I wanted to get them in the woods. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm going to put them out on a couple of deer. If I see a deer, I'm going to put them out. I'm going to do my little, you smell it. You show me a behavioral change, tap, tap, tap. That means pressure, pressure, pressure. Good boy, good girl. Come back to me. We pet you up and we move on. And I set those dogs back when I went to start them on bear. So don't make the mistake that I did. Get them on the right game first. I told you about Chief a couple of podcasts ago about how I knew that he struck and run a deer. You remember that? And he turned and come back to me. He went to, 500 yards, 700 yards, took it out the mountain, and took my 2-year-olds with him too. Man, he was giving some mouth on it. And I didn't get on any of them. And my 2-year-olds have been on enough bear, they know. Like, I could have corrected him. I talked about that in a podcast. But I did not want to set him back. Like, he hadn't been on enough bear. He'd been on 1, maybe 2 races, 3 maybe, I don't know, wasn't many. And I just didn't want to take that chance. But now I've had him on 10 or 12 races. So he's getting the picture. And towards the end of the season, I'm going to start working on correcting some of that if it turns into be a problem. So catching them in the act, make sure that you got them on the right game before you start implementing a lot of these corrections. Or it's a possibility. I'm not going to say 100%, but it's a possibility you can set your dog back. And it's going to take you more time to get them where you're at. And if you're not sure, let it ride, just like I did with him. There's nothing worse than, shocking or correcting the dog off the right game. And I won't throw him under the bus, but one of my good friends 2 weeks ago told me exactly that. The dogs, he split off from the other dogs and was coming around the mountain. So he starts correcting. Guess what pops out the road in front of him? Yogi. And he done started working on the dog when the dog's young too. Don't need that. So sometimes it's better just to let it roll and go from there. It's better to do it when you're 100%. And I'm always about that. So let's talk about the right tools. Everybody's using, the alphas or Dogtras. I don't know a lot about the Dogtras, but, let's talk about the tone first. If you've done your foundation work, we talk about it on here all the time. A lot of times a dog that's tone broke, all you got to do is tone them and they know to come back. If you're going to use the stimulation, do it under a clear conscience. Don't do it out of anger. Heath, I've talked to myself. Do it under a clear mind. A correction should be sharp and decisive, not drawn out, and not continue. You're not settling anything that way. Immediate ban, let's take care of it, we're done. Okay? And something we don't think about a lot. I thought about this when I was thinking about this podcast. How many times are you walking through the woods and you'll see that head, them young dogs, they'll perk up and they'll their body language changes, or they'll dart over the bank and your old dogs throw that head up and they just keep going, and the young dogs are like, oh no, we're going down here. And right then, that's wrong. And you're like, let's go. Come on, let's go, guys. I did that coming out of the woods today with Goofy and Cass. I had them loose, and man, they threw that head up in there and up over the bank they went. My old dog stowed their heads up, kept walking. My voice. That was it, my voice. And if that don't work, then you put them on a leash, right? Just don't do it. So what's another great tool? Hunting with a broke dog. Like, I wished I had one that was 100% broke, because I don't. I wished I did. Lead by example. And I do know that I thought about this the other day, that when I've got Spook and Kate down and I've got my younger dogs with them, very seldom do I have many problems. It's when I'm hunting those hoodlums without the two older dogs, that stuff creeps around. And the race the other day didn't have old dogs, just had the younger dogs. The 4-year-olds and the 3-year-olds, whatever. And yeah, I guys, I'm just being honest. Above and beyond all else, be true to thyself. If you can't admit it, you can't fix it. I had a race. I don't know what it was. I have a very good inclination that it was a coyote. And now I'm kind of thinking it was a fox, the way it kept crossing its track. I'm not a fox hunter. I don't know. But I told you that Hootie had opened on 2 out of the truck. And that kind of got me thinking. So hunt with a broke dog. Man, if you've got a solid broke pack, turning that pup with them, man, they're not gonna honor a trash race because they're not gonna be used to it. That pup's gonna figure out really quick that, hey, these guys got it going on, and this is where I need to be, and this other stuff, they're not paying attention to it. Remember, monkey see, monkey do. I don't need to pay attention to it either because it's not getting us anywhere. So letting them learn from a seasoned hound is great. Let's set them up for success. Goes back to what we talked about earlier. Do not cut a pup loose on every deer crossing. Don't give them the opportunity when you're going through the woods and hey, I'm not striking bear in this area, but I see a lot of deer and I'm going to walk that pup loose through there. What's the chance of that dog striking a deer? Probably pretty good. But if you don't see it, you don't know, even though you do know. You just don't know. So set them up for success. Don't give them the opportunity to start bad habits. Hold that dog on a lead for another couple hundred yards or half a mile or however you hunt or whatever you do. And one other thing in dog training, period, is consistent. Every time the dog runs trash, after you've got him on the right game and he understands this is the game I'm supposed to be on, it's got to be addressed. One pass, and they're going to say, oh, okay, so I can do this again. Consistency is going to build you better habits, good or bad. If you consistently let them go, bad. You consistently correct it, take care of the problem, good. Knowing when to quit. Here's the hard truth. Some dogs you're not going to break. You're going to spend years, fighting a hard-headed trash runner. Now, you may have bought this dog that already had this bad habit. You may have created this bad habit. Or this dog's prey drive is so strong that you just can't curb it. And that's a part of being a hound, is knowing when this dog's got the right stuff and when you're better to cut your losses. Patience and consistency. It's a process, guys. It's not fixed in one time. It's not a quick fix. So knowing when to quit. Knowing when to let that dog go because you don't know, instead of applying pressure that you could set your dog back a month or 2 months. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I'll tell you about this process that I went through, and I may have talked about it before, but back when Belle and Clyde were young dogs, I had a couple people tell me that I'd never break them. And man, I did everything I could wrong because I didn't know. I didn't have a podcast to go to listen to. I didn't have, somebody sitting beside me in the truck saying, hey, do this, don't do this. Now, I did have mentors that I picked up the phone and I called. But I'll tell you, I would see deer out in the field, or I'd be riding through the mountains and see deer, and I'd dump them out on them, and I'd let them get going. I'd let them really get going, and then I'd start applying the pressure. And what happens when you get to the highest point of that pressure, and that pressure is not stopping them? You got problems, right? Then you got to figure out how to do the thing all over. And at that time, I had no clue. No clue. I should have never let them got going. As soon as that behavior changed, as soon as they took in that odor, I realized, hey, they got the deer scent. This is where. Then I should have started doing it. So I've learned. I've really learned about this stuff. But I was told I would never break those dogs. Belle would run a deer to another zip code. In fact, several times she did. We had to go to different counties and across the state line several times to pick her up. And you know what? I never did break her. She was one of the straightest dogs I ever owned. She done it on her own. You're thinking, like, how did that happen? You know what? Don't ask me, because I don't have the answer. I think she was a super smart dog, and after I got her on the right game and she figured it out, that other stuff wasn't any important anymore. And I'll tell you that you couldn't melt her like warm butter and pour her on a deer race once she stopped. Couldn't do it. You could turn her into them. She'd go down there and she would be boop right back to you. And I never did break her. I worked on her, but the last time that I put her out on deer, she run it. And she stopped on her own. And Clyde pretty much did it too. So I just kept hunting them, kept putting them on the right game, and they figured it out. It wasn't, like I said, I definitely did try, but I can't take credit for it because I don't feel like I did it. I had another time that I was coon hunting. Me and a couple of my buddies were coon hunting. This was before I was really, really into the bear hunting. Had a little plot dog named Chance. And I was hunting Brandy and him. He was a young dog at the time. And we drove back into this farm and was hunting some cornfields. And him and another dog took out that cornfield. I mean, they were gone. I mean, they had rockets under them. So back then we had the BB collars. So you had to go find them. So I think we ended up treeing a coon in the other end of the cornfield, loaded those dogs up, had to drive out. Of course, we're beeping them. And we get there, and he's on the porch of the house that we drove in by. So when I get there, he's got a pretty big gad. His skin is, he's tore like pretty good through the front end. So he got hit by a car for running a deer. That dog never run a deer again either. And he was okay. I took him to the vet. They stapled him up real good, minor damage. But man, that traumatized him. And if he would smell a deer, he would almost get behind you and avoid them, avoidance. So, that's the stuff that happens, if you don't break them, if you don't do the things you're supposed to do. And like I said, back then, I didn't have some of the meat. We had BB collars. I didn't have a shot collar then when all this took place. So just remind you guys that trash is a part of training. Everybody's got to deal with it. The difference is how you handle it. Do you turn it into a problem or you turn it into a lesson? And if you turn it into a lesson, it's going to build a better hound for the long haul. Running trash isn't the end of a dog. It's a part of making one. A hound that has never tested or run trash probably doesn't have the drives to begin with. The difference is whether you shape it into a fire, into a straight, honest hunter, or you let it burn wild on everything that runs through those mountains. That's a wrap for this week's episode of What's Up Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in and walking the trail with me. If you got something out of today's episode, as always, be sure to like, follow, share it with a fellow hound hunter. Leave a review. Until next time, we'll see you at the tree.
Tailgate drops before the light, coolers packed and the rig sitting right, tracking collars charged, beeping green, boots in the bed and the rifle's clean. Dog box rattling, engines hum. We're chasing bear till the day is done. Old ring barking like he knows what's near. Nose to the wind, tail full of cheer. From the Virginia mountains to the Carolina clay, we're burning fuel and miles each day. Every turn's another tale. Through mountain mist and paper trails, we see the sunset red in Tennessee. Rise through the fog in old WV. North Carolina's pines echo loud with the cry of a hard-run hound. New York forest, Maine's deep snow, Vermont valleys where the black bears go. Truck keeps rolling, wheels don't care. We're chasing daylight, chasing bear. Rest stops few, the roads are long, but the fire in our hearts still burns strong. Wisconsin mornings cutting crisp and clear, Canada's wildwoods drawing near. Still got states we ain't run, but that hound dog fever won't let us quit. We see the sunset red in Tennessee. Rise through the fog in old WV. North Carolina's pines echo loud with the cry of a hard-run hound. New York frost, Maine's deep snow, Vermont valleys where the black bears go. Truck keeps rolling, wheels don't care. We're chasing daylight, chasing bear. Gas station coffee, Alpha XL on the dash. Another back road, another bear track. Friends made fast and stories told slow. Under stars where only hunters go, we see the sunrise gold in Canadian air. And it sets on a trail down in Appalachia. Packing steel and leather, grit and care. We're built for the road and chasing bear. So load the dogs and slam the gate. There's a trail ahead, we won't be late. From dawn to dusk, we're always there. Chasing daylight, chasing them bears.